And all of these points just mean that you have the opportunity really to look at the results to your study, deep dive into the data, and really work out what's gone wrong. And that's a luxury, right? That's a luxury that kind of human insights agencies still have, but ourselves and our other people in our space that are doing automated research just don't have, right? There is no human being at Zappi that is looking at a top line, that is reading every single verbatim, that is comparing scores to a norm before a client sees it. So we're exposed, right? We don't have these kind of human checks in place to spot. It's not about the diagnostics, right? It's about spotting that something's gone wrong. Exactly. Of course, we have myself and my colleagues in the research team that will diagnose exactly what's happened here when something has gone wrong. But we have to have confidence in our automated capabilities as a first line of defense to really flag those problems, because people aren't looking at the results.
So help me understand a little bit about what are the things that we do without having that layer of quality control, that human layer of quality control, the research analyst. What are the things that we do? And what are the things that others should do in that front to make sure that the data that we are collecting is of the highest quality?
I think you can talk about this in two ways, right? You can talk about preventative medicine, and then you can talk about kind of the stuff that's going on as the project's building. So, in terms of the preventative medicine, a lot of it is stuff that other providers will do. So, the most basic stuff, of course, is quotas, is weights, and then is where you source your sample from as well, of course. So the big thing, of course, is a lot of our sample. Well, let's be honest, all online research samples come from the same place, right? It's coming from an access panel, and often nowadays it's coming from one of the two big exchanges, right? That's the reality, I think. There's a few things that we can do within that, though. So we know that within the exchanges there are elements of respondent characteristics that can drive differences in survey. So let's say you're an exchange, you've got access panel A, you've got access panel B. Just due to how those panels have been recruited, you'll get kind of differences within the respondents in them, right? Even if they're kind of observable, top level characteristics are similar. I don't know, they're both female, they're both aged 25 to 34. Just in aggregate, the sourcing of that sample might make a difference. I don't know, maybe it's a loyalty card versus something, rivering sample or something like that popping up in and out.
Right.
Clearly, even if they're demographically similar, the latent characteristics underneath those respondents are going to make a difference in the kind of survey scores that they give when they react to stimuli, right? They might be more online, more offline, whatever, So that's a big part. So one of the things that you can do is just check with your research provider to what extent they're controlling, within exchanges for, the different kind of subpanels that are offered. Both of the big panel providers out there will offer templating, will offer, the ability to control the exact kind of panels that sample goes out to. And that's a really important thing to kind of do up front, just to make sure, again, we're talking about consistency in research here, right? We're talking about the idea that I'm a large enterprise organization, I'm using Zappi, I'm testing 50 stimuli with the same target group. At that point, it's really important that all 50 of those cells are, very, very similar in terms of the sample that goes into them. So controlling even more within exchanges is hugely important. The other thing is really basic, but, often traditional research agencies, they won't even interlock, right? They'll take just your flat gender quota, your flat age quota, and say, okay, half my sample's male, half my sample's female, a third's young, a third's mid, a third's older. That's good enough, right? Often it isn't. We know that young males and young females are going to give radically different scores. We know, again, older males, older females can give different scores. So it's really important to just control for demographics kind of at that interlock level as much as possible. Because if you've got one cell with, where your young age group is full of one gender and another cell where your young age group is full of a different gender, clearly that's going to impact your results as well. So that's a couple of the upfront things we do. When it comes to the less preventative medicine and the more kind of, how to look at data after it's been collected, it's about the fraud checks, right? So, we have a machine learning algorithm. It's called Candolph, thou shalt not pass. And the way that works is really to, look for respondents who exhibit characteristics that are abnormal in a few different ways, right? So it's things like the speed of the response, it's things like the gibberish that they include in the open ends, and it's things like repetition in the open-ended responses. And that's not an expert system, in the way that many agencies might have it, where, tools in SPSS, for example, you can just click on a drop-down menu and it'll say identify straight lines, right? That's something that's existed for a long time. We we kind of use a much more machine learning AI approach where it kind of evaluates, against all of the thousands and thousands of surveys we've ever done before to look for abnormalities.